Hi, this is Anne. I am just checking to make sure that we are okay because I just had to shut down and restart a few times, having some buffering problems. So I'm waiting for people to let me know if things are okay. So if you're watching the replay and I haven't had a chance to edit this through YouTube because it takes a while to process, I will try to remember to put my hand up when we actually start the show so that you can fast forward and see. You don't have to wait. I will also put a timeline in eventually, but it takes a lot of process. Okay, so far it looks like we're good. Okay, good. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming back. It was a little bit crazy there. Okay, so I'm putting my hand up for the people watching the replay that we are okay. All right. Well, that was fun. I will skip my intro, I guess, at this point. Okay, all is great. Good. Okay. Well, maybe while we're waiting, we'll just do a quick, just an intro. This is to anyone who's new here, who's watching the replay. This is the Animal Intuitive channel. I am the Animal Intuitive and Angela Webb. And here we talk about animal communication, natural pet care, and I'm laughing because everything's all messed up tonight. My screen just went whoop, so I can't see me very well, which is kind of weird, but we'll get through this. So we talk about animal communication, natural pet care. I do interviews with experts in the fields of animal care and advocacy, and I am a professional animal communicator, which means I understand what animals are thinking and feeling, and I try to help other people understand what animals are thinking and feeling through this show, and we have lots of episodes about that, as well as Animal Intuitive Academy, and that can be found through my website, Intuitive Touch Animal Care. But on with the show. So tonight we're going to be talking about blocks that people have with animal communication, and there can just be frustration sometimes. So I did a little survey this week to see what people wanted to talk about. It was very evenly split between massage, acupressure, and this sort of topic about how to kind of move along your animal communication practice. So it was evenly split. So I went with this one. And we'll talk about those other things again. We have videos about those too, acupressure, massage in the playlist. So check those out later. So animal communication is a wonderful thing. It's when animals can connect with us. We can understand what animals are thinking, what they're feeling. And we do this through the senses. So we do this through, we can see little videos or images. We can understand through like sentences basically in our minds. We call it audio or auditory communication. We can smell, we can taste what the animal is smelling or tasting. We can also feel what an animal is feeling on or in their body. And we can also just understand them from the perspective of their feelings, from their emotion. And that's actually really one of the most important things. And we always want to tie that to whatever we're understanding about the animal so we can get the full picture. So understanding if they're happy, anxious, angry about something, frustrated, anything that an animal might be feeling. And then, of course, just knowing. It's just knowing what an animal is thinking and feeling. And yes, thank you so much for mentioning that, Mel Mac, that this is the channel. Please check out that library of information that I have here. So I have a little teleprompter. It's definitely like the Wizard of Oz. Like, there's no point in me trying ever to be like coy on the show because it's always like something goes wrong. So I have a little teleprompter that helps me. I can't remember all this the stuff that I want to say. And of course it like shifted. So all I can see is that, and I can't really see my screen. So let me know if there's anything crazy going on my screen, if you wouldn't mind, anyone in the chat. Yes, thank you. We finally got it together. So things are finally working. I don't know what that was. It was pretty crazy. So, okay. So ideally, when you're going to be communicating with animals, it's really good to be in the theta brainwave state. And basically, it's just the state that you're in if you think about when you're meditating. You're very grounded, you're relaxed, but you're also focused and centered. It's right before we go into the delta wave state, which would be sleep. So beta waves are actually the more common state that we're in when we're just going about our lives, we're walking around, we're talking, we're thinking, we're processing information, and we're alert and focused, and we're doing problem solving. And we want to get into that more grounded theta state. However, sometimes things happen and we're struggling with that. And we want to get there. So I have some suggestions and steps for how we can do that. And I want to help you with that. So also, if this episode is helpful to you, please hit the thumbs up button and hit the notification bell, subscribe so you'll be notified when we have episodes. All right, so it may involve a few things when you're having a problem with communicating with animals, when you're frustrated and maybe you're feeling like I just can't get into this meditative state that everyone says, you need to be in when you do telepathic animal communication. Sometimes we're just not there. It can be difficult sometimes to meditate, especially if we've been going around in that, beta state, especially with all the electronics and, just everything that we have to contend with in this world. So the first thing I want to talk about is just doing a check-in. So if you're about to do some animal communication, and presumably if you're watching this show, you've tried it or you're interested in trying it and you're maybe going to check out a few episodes. If you're struggling to get into that state, just do a check-in. This is all about just being mindful of what's going on in your mind, in your body, that might be making it difficult for you to get into that meditative state. So do just a scan of your body. Notice your breathing. Notice if your breathing is kind of like a little bit fast. Sometimes we just don't even realize it. We're going about our business and we don't realize how tense and kind of amped up we are. We're maybe not even breathing sometimes. And, maybe you feel like your tongue pressed up against the top of your mouth, your shoulders are tense, and then you stop, you do a scan, take a deep breath. Okay, what's going on here? Why do I feel like I just can't do this? Like I cannot sit down, or you go to sit down and start your meditation and it's not working. You just feel like it's not going to work right now. So it could also be that you're having some other things going on, like mental self-doubt, like you're able to get into that state, but you're having some thoughts that may be making it difficult for you to feel like you can succeed and that you want to do this. So I'm going to talk about that last. But first, it's really important, as I said, to get in tune with your own body to communicate with animals. We need to recognize if we're not grounded or too distracted and do something about it if that's what you want to do, if that's your goal, is to understand what they're thinking and feeling. So we want to get out of our heads. So the first thing I want to suggest is that if you're really feeling that way, just go outside. Go out into nature. If you're amped up, as long as you can, go outside. That's my first suggestion. And just go for a little bit of a walk to shake off that excess energy. Do that for as long as you need to until you start to feel like you're settling down a little bit, like you're letting go of some of that. And then begin to do a more methodical walk, do a more noticing your steps, right, left. Notice as you put one foot on the ground, the next one. Take some nice deep breaths as you're doing that and be intentional about your walk. As you're walking, observe what's going on around you, but try not to get into evaluating or assessing or judging or just even contemplating anything. If you see beautiful flowers, just notice them and then kind of let that go. And don't get caught up in the mental process as you're doing this. And animal communication is so much about observing without judgment. We're there to get the information and share it perhaps with someone, or get the information from our animal and let them know we understand it. So this is a good practice actually, to just go throughout the world. Even if you're not about to do an animal communication, you could just do this on a regular walk. Just go on your walk, noticing, observing, but you don't need to judge anything or think too much about it. And if you do start to do that, try not to get caught up in stomping on those thoughts or trying to get rid of them. It's more about just noticing and acknowledging. It's like clouds passing by. Just, okay, I noticed that I had that thought. I'm going to let it go by. Because if you get into that process of trying to squash those thoughts, it becomes, it's not a fun game. It doesn't really work. So it's better just to notice that the distraction is there, that thought, and then allow it to move along. So hopefully at that point, you've gotten yourself into a better place, more prepared for animal communication. And the next tool that you can use to help you get even more focused, or if you feel like that maybe didn't work enough, or you could use one or the other, is the use of water to help you get more relaxed and grounded into a clear-headed state. If it's available to you outside where you are, it's wonderful to go and observe a stream, just look at it, the water moving. You don't have to think too much about it, just observe it. And if possible, if you are able to do that outside, you can even do some Tai Chi if you can, if you feel comfortable doing that where you are. I'm not going to get into like demonstrating Tai Chi here, but you could go look up some videos about that, I'm sure, and find how to do that if you're not familiar with it. It's really good for moving energy and getting grounded. But okay, so let's say you don't have a stream or anything outside. So come back inside, or you're starting inside. Maybe it's a rainy day, you can just listen to the rain outside. Or there's plenty of videos that do have sounds of running water or rain, and that can be really helpful. I find it so relaxing. I don't know about anyone else here. Let me know if you find that to be very helpful for getting meditative, but I do find that. And also, you may have like a water fountain. I have a pet water fountain here. So just sometimes sitting and listening to the sound of a fountain like that really can help you to become more grounded and calm. And there's actually a study that was done. There's been a few, but the most notable one is research known as the Blue Mind. So blue is in water study. And I'm just going to quote here, this deep biological connection to water has been shown to trigger an immediate response in our brains when we're near water. In fact, the mere sight and sound of water can induce a flood of neurochemicals that promote wellness, increase blood flow to the brain and heart, and induce relaxation. So that's an article from Quartz website about that study. And, like I mentioned, you could even on a walk have headphones in and be listening to water too. Combine the two if you don't have a stream to look at. And then just acknowledge at that point any thoughts that might be coming in and just let them go. Hopefully you've come down a few notches. You're getting into that theta state. Yeah, I love those sounds too. They're so relaxing and healing. Yeah, at night, definitely. Okay, I lost my words. So let's say that you've done that. You already, it's not really that you're amped up. It's not that. It's just that you've got thoughts that are interfering with your ability to do telepathic animal communication. So maybe you're having some unhelpful thoughts like, I don't feel like I can do this. I don't feel like I can connect in with the animal. And maybe that's coming from a previous experience where you were practicing, for instance. That can happen. Like maybe you were communicating with someone's animal or your own animal, and for whatever reason you were missing something, or you received information but didn't interpret it right, or didn't convey what you wanted to an animal, so you ended up seeing no outcome. It just wasn't clear what was going on. There's so many reasons that we can undermine ourselves when we're practicing animal communication. by, especially in the very beginning when you're starting to do this, looking back and saying something went wrong. I was communicating with someone's pet and they told me that no, he doesn't like a red bed, he likes a blue bed. So one thing I really want to just mention here is, and I always say this to all of my students, make sure that when you're practicing outside of our class, make sure that you're practicing with people who are open-minded and willing to give you positive feedback and understanding that you're learning, and but also understanding that this is not an exact science, and that it's not always your role as an animal communicator to be describing everything in the animal's life exactly. That's not necessarily where you're coming from as an animal communicator. I mean, sometimes that happens, and when we're doing a class, we're practicing things like that so that you can start to build confidence. But more often than not, you're there talking to someone's animal because you're trying to help them with an issue. So um, sometimes people will, who are new to being the client or the person's, the pet parent that you're talking to and trying to help them, if they don't really understand what this is about, or they're coming at this very skeptically, this is why, from a skeptical place, this is why you want to practice with someone open-minded, because they might get hung up on those things. And there's plenty of times when somebody forgets something, and then 2 weeks down the road, they remember, yes, oh, that's right, my dog she had a red dog bed, and we threw it out because the cat urinated on it or something. And so we had to get rid of it. And oh, that's what she was talking about. So that's why you really want to work with people who are open to this. So the more you practice, the more confident you will become and be able to do animal communication and feel better about it. There's a learning curve though, and as you grow and more success, this helps you to gain confidence. But say that you are having some struggles and you're having these thoughts. So this is kind of taken from cognitive behavioral therapy and counseling. I'm also a licensed therapist, so a lot of times I'm pulling on things that I know from the counseling world. But animal communication and counseling, they do crisscross. I mean, there's just certain things about them that you're helping people with their pets. So I want to talk a little bit about these thoughts that you might have, and we refer to those as cognitive distortions. So when you're starting to have these thoughts, they're probably making you also have anxiety or some kind of reaction in your body. And first off, we want to address that, because if you have a thought and it makes you feel nervous, your body starts to go into kind of a mini fight or flight mode or freeze mode or you're not really able to focus though. And so you need to take a moment and check in with your body and get yourself back to regulated. So taking a nice slow deep breath through the nose, you can do that for, people do different things, 8 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever is right for you. Inhale through the nose and then very slowly out of your mouth. And do that if you have to a few times, just to help you kind of slow down a little bit. And then notice the first thought that you're having. Notice what that is that you're saying to yourself that's making you feel anxious. And notice and give it a label. So for instance, are you thinking to yourself, I'm not connecting with the animal. I'm not going to be able to connect with this animal. And then ask yourself, okay, well, let's give that a label. What does that fall into? That category is fear, right? You're afraid that you're going to what? Make a mistake? Feel like a fool? What's going on there? So name it. That's really important. You start to take away the power of things when you name them and label them. So yeah, maybe you're worried about making a mistake and feeling judged or criticized. So then the next question is, okay, so what would that mean if you did make a mistake in this? Well, how much would it matter? What would be the result of that? So maybe the person might say to you, no, she didn't have a red dog bed. No, she doesn't have a red dog bed. Okay, so the next thing is, what do you want to do with this concern? We want to reframe your thoughts. We want to practice noticing the cognitive distortions that might be, I'm going to mess this up. And then what, if I mess this up, it means I can't communicate with animals. And what's the point of this? It can really start to spiral. So we want to like cut these things off, stop them before they start to do that. So notice what's going on, notice the thought, and then let's think about a way to reframe it. So try to take the emotion out of it for a moment. Think about the actual facts of the situation. So it's likely that, like we mentioned, you have communicated with animals at some point in your life. When I teach a class at any point, and in my own experience, when I began to realize what I was doing, because I knew that I was doing this, at some point it clicked with me that I had been doing this earlier in my life before I started doing it professionally. And I find that for anybody that I teach, they can identify a time in their life when they've communicated with an animal or more than once. So I really think it's a good idea when you are going to be practicing animal communication to have a little notebook and write down anything that you get as far as your communication practices, but also write down when you yourself recall having communicated with animals, or instances where you've been practicing with your own pets and then they did something that confirmed it for you, that you had been communicating with them. So for instance, maybe you practice sitting there doing meditation and connecting with your pet, and they were in the other room, and you asked them to come see you in the room that you're in, and they trotted into the room. Make sure that you write that down so that if you're starting to go into a practice and you're starting to get nervous, go back and look at that. Just put it right at the first page of your notebook and look at it and, oh, that's right, I have done this. I know I can do this. And then go back to that feeling. It will result in connecting with the memory of what it felt like, and it will help to get you back on track. So very important to do that reframing when we start to go off the rails. And I'm just checking into the chat. Okay, so, ooh, I lost my script again. Okay, so when these things happen, they're actually opportunities, right? And that's something else you can tell yourself. This is an opportunity to learn from and grow from. So I can't go too deep in this show right now because this is more like, it is more in depth in my classes that I teach about how to then use these moments for the purposes of, I just hit a button. Okay. Something flashed up on my screen. So how to use these moments to learn from them and to grow and to really begin to go to a deeper level to understand like how you communicate with animals and how it looks when something doesn't feel right and you need to go back in and check in with them. So we do go more into that in the classes, but just notice what might have been going on that threw you off and practice compassion with yourself. Give yourself grace and patience. Maybe you don't get this one right. Maybe it turns out that you miss something. Treat yourself like you would anybody else. If you were in a class with other students, you wouldn't come down on them harshly, right? If they didn't pick up on something exactly right. So treat yourself in the same way. Relate to yourself as someone who's learning in a forgiving, accepting, and loving way. And if you can get through that moment, go back to the connection of the feeling of the animal. So you don't have to go right into, okay, I've got to understand exactly what their thinking is right now, and I need to pick up on this. No, go back to the feeling. What does the animal feel like? So people and animals, we all know this. We all have kind of our own energy, right? We have just, some of us are more up, some of us are more like calm and serene, and go into the feeling connecting with the animal. That's a really good way to reset when you've gotten off a little bit in a session, and just feel their energy. Just feels what it likes. Feel what it's like to connect in with them and who they are just as a being. And much of the information in that is just going to flow from that once you get back into that state of connection. And we always want the feeling anyway. That's just so important, as I said previously, like to have the feeling of what the animal's feeling no matter what's going on. So maybe they have a new pet in the house, or they moved, or there can be so many things. But do you get a feeling of excitement? Do you get a feeling of confusion? Then you can go from there and start going deeper into the layers. So, maybe they're wondering, is this pet staying? Are they going to be with us forever? Is this going to be my new brother or sister? And then you can talk about, well, maybe there's been a problem. Maybe the pet parents have come to you because there's some kind of an issue going on. Like they've growled, or they've barked, or they're maybe just not, they're acting really aloof with the new pet. So then you can go into, what do you get from that animal about that particular situation? Ask them, show me, what is it's going on that's causing you to act this way, like sort of act different lately. And then maybe you do get this image of this new pet lying on a dog bed, and you can say to the pet parent, I'm seeing this, and the bed to me looks red, or it looks blue. And then that's when, you can get into the discussion around, well, maybe that's the dog who's been there, that's their bed, and they're upset because the new dog has been sleeping on their bed. Easy to find solutions about that. Make sure the new dog has their own bed so that they don't have to have this kind of conflict. So, in summary, notice what it is that is blocking communication or causing frustration or confusion, and start with the physical. Notice what you are feeling. Do you need to change something about your physical state and or your environment? And if so, maybe try going out for a walk. Walk that excess energy off, and then begin to walk with intention. Maybe do some things like Tai Chi or whatever it is that helps you to ground yourself. And then try meditation with the sound, or even in view of you, of moving water or rain. And use a pet fountain if you need to, like I do. And acknowledge then, the third step is acknowledge any thoughts that might be blocking or disturbing your communication. Notice the physical feeling in your body, and do a reset by taking in some nice, slow, deep breaths and exhaling. Just pause, reset. And consider if the thought is actually a cognitive distortion. Focus on the thought that is going to actually help you move towards your goal of communicating with animals instead of just getting stuck. And by the way, I do have a blog on my website, and I'll probably have this all written out if some people like to go back and read these things. I am a little bit behind on my blog posting, but I will at some point have that there, and that's on my website, Intuitive Touch animalcare.com, which I forgot to type out and have on my screen. But and also, I do have a free guided meditation that you can get on my website. Well, there it is, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. And that meditation can help you to also get into the state of mind and body that you want to be in to communicate with animals if you need a little bit of help. And you can just download that on my website. And I also have a class that's really focused on this, helping you with mindfulness and combining that with animal communication, getting help with getting grounded by using acupressure, and those points can be used with pets too. And you can find that on my courses page on intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. So yes, does anybody have questions or thoughts about this? Is anybody here who has been trying to practice animal communication and kind of struggling with it? And is there anything you'd like me to add to this, or questions that you have? And I also just want to say, like, even those of us who have been doing this for years, we have our moments too. I mean, life can get so stressful sometimes. There's so many distractions, and sometimes it takes more than other times to get into that state that you want to be in to communicate with animals and to really feel what they're feeling and know what they're thinking. So, yeah, thank you so much, Momac. That's the page on my website with my school. So, just know that just because maybe you're having a little bit of a challenge with connecting or knowing that for sure that you're connecting in, and sometimes that's it, you are, but you're just not at the point where you're able to recognize it or notice it because you're learning what that feels like, and also maybe waiting for confirmation because sometimes the confirmation comes later. So something might shift in your pet after you've had a conversation with them, and you just have to kind of wait and see. And also, you have to be open to this too, and make sure that you're acknowledging your successes and not just discounting things that are actually changes. So, and like I said, please do write all these things down as you're practicing, because you want to be able to go back and remind yourself, oh yes, I did do this. Yes, I did. Okay, so, and I want to know from people in the comments, do you have any struggles with communicating with animals? Like, what are your struggles with that? Because I really do want to help with that. It's really important to me to help give animals a voice. That's why this channel's here, is to help people understand that animals can communicate their thoughts and their feelings. We can understand them. This is the way animals communicate. Like this one right here. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions or comments, and I don't think I forgot anything. But please let me know in the comments your thoughts, and if there's also topics for future episodes that you have that you'd like me to focus on, I'm happy to do that. I'm always interested in ideas. I also just want to mention I have sort of a weird, I have a class coming up in April. I need to go to my courses site and fix the date because it was supposed to be at the end of February, and I'm changing that for I have some trainings coming up and some family stuff. So my schedule's a little off in the next like month and a half. So I don't know if I'm going to be here weekly. There may be like a few weeks I'm not here, and I apologize for that, but I will, be in touch too through community posts too. So Judy's saying, I'm just beginning to learn the whole process. That's wonderful. I'm beginning meditation and learning to ground myself. I will be taking a class, but right now just reading. Well, that's terrific. I would love to help you in any way, whether it's a class directly with me or my downloadable class, or there's options. So I have group live classes that I do, and that's the one I'm talking about that's coming up in April. And I also do private classes. And then I have the digital download of the class I mentioned. Oh, okay. I'll check the topic you mentioned. Okay. Thank you so much. Good night, Owl. That's wonderful. Good. I'm glad that this has been helpful. I really feel like it's something that anybody can do if they put their mind to it, and just do some, practice is really key. And like I said, practicing with people who are helpful and open to this. Well, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you being here, and we'll be connecting soon, hopefully. Okay. Take care and God bless.
Rub my belly, rub my belly.